Hello and welcome to Attacking Third. We are live on YouTube. Once more, we're going live all the time when we're here on A3. Make sure you stay tuned because we've got a lot to talk about, some breaking news. It's an emergency episode. We want to hear from you in the chat. Let's go. Hello and welcome into Attacking Third, CBS Sports Soccer Podcast. I'm Sandra and I lead NWSL writer for CBS Sports. Joined today, as always, by my colleague and co-host, Lisa Roman, broadcaster and analyst for CBS Sports. On today's episode, we are doing a breaking news segment. We've got to chat about some coaching updates for Kansas City Current, and we're excited to chat about a programming update, a programming note for Golazo Network and Women's Champions League. So let's start with probably the biggest news. It's good to see you again, Lisa. We were just hanging out this morning, and here we are again once more. How you doing?
I'm good. I mean, breaking news in the NWSL. So we knew we had to jump on and give everyone an update about what we know, what we've read, what we think is going to happen, how this affects everything, because big news coming out of the NWSL today.
Yeah, for sure. So we're referring to the club release from Kansas City Current. They have announced that they have parted ways with now former head coach Matt Potter in light of what they refer to in the statement as leadership issues related to his leadership and employment responsibilities. In this same release, we get a statement from General Manager Camille Ashton that says, "We watch the play on the pitch, we keep a pulse on the locker room, and we are constantly evaluating ways to improve our club. Through our ongoing process of continuous improvement, we believe now is the right time for this change." So we have an update on the status of Potter with the club moving forward. They make a point to address that this isn't entirely results related by stating in the release that it's issues around leadership and employment responsibilities. And they also point to a next step in this process as well. They have gone ahead and named assistant coach Caroline Quablum as the interim head coach. In the meantime, Lisa, your initial reactions when you saw something like this drop?
Yeah, I mean, it's never good to see when breaking news like this happens where someone is essentially getting fired. That's my words, not the club's words. They said parted ways, but it basically means like something went wrong. What happened, right? And we don't know. We don't have all of the answers for everyone. We know what Kansas City has put out there and what the league has put out there, but I don't think that this, as you mentioned, like it can't be all results related at this point. It cannot be based on like how everything else has gone. Kansas City, their three straight losses to start this year, which no is not great, especially after you're coming off of a championship appearance. But you have to look at how Kansas City started last year as well. They didn't win a game until like five or so games into the season, and then they end up winning playoff game after playoff game and making their way to the championship. So there's a lot of different factors that come into this and kind of what the ultimate decision or why the ultimate decision was made. And um, basically saying that issues around his leadership and employment responsibilities leads me to believe that it's a little bit more with how he conducts himself as a coach and not necessarily why they have not won a game in their opening three games, because the team on the pitch has been dealing with a lot of injuries and a lot of people are not available for them. So it seems to me to be something off the pitch entirely.
Yeah, I think when you take a look at how Kansas City has gotten off to the start that they have this year, you look to something like those availability reports right away. We know that this team has had lots of players on the IR, not up to speed at this moment. And there, I think, maybe has been a little bit of grace in terms of those results as players start to go ahead and really get into the long grind of what a regular season is. And I think with some of the phrasing, within the press release, especially utilizing the word parted ways, I think when I was, for me, in my reaction to this, when I'm receiving that and reading it, I'm immediately kind of jumping back into the last couple of seasons,
Yeah.
headlines around the league that we have covered. If there is going to be a dismissal, a parting of ways, termination, etc., whichever the phrasing is that clubs are using, in this instance, a parting of ways, if you're going to use that over the last 2 years, considering the headlines around the league, that there needs to be some kind of reference to the why. I do understand the legalities of things, and maybe you can't always be as transparent as you can right away. There's things to take into consideration, like protections and things like that for whomever in
Hmm.
the instance. But I think the club did a good job of pointing to a why.
Yeah.
He stated issues around his leadership and employment responsibilities. That automatically tells us within the first couple of sentences of this release that no, this was not entirely just results based. And for I think for folks who follow the league, maybe not necessarily like the once in a while fan or even the casual fan, but really like the diehards, fans who have been really invested in this league and have been around to know and see and stay updated about everything that has sort of transpired over the last couple seasons. Those folks kind of take a look at this and probably wonder the same, because I think if you're looking at that phrasing and then you're trying to draw conclusions from things. I mean, this is the same team that also had a slow start in 2022, but they went ahead on a run,
Yeah.
closed out in fifth place, and marched all the way to a spot in the 2022 NWSL Championship final. So they
And
didn't have a win in their first 5 games of 2022. So to try to maybe make a release and just tie it right around a 3-game loss might have been even more suspect, I think, to some folks who are diehards of the league.
When looking at Matt Potter and kind of his journey to today's breaking news that he has parted ways and the club have parted ways with Kansas City Current, he was hired in January of 2022. So after Kansas City's first season back in the NWSL or in the NWSL. And as you just talked about, didn't win a game until game 6 in the NWSL season, took them all the way to the championship. And I right, like they're now 0-3 to start this season. But I would argue that Kansas City, I mean, we've talked about it on here, had one of the best off seasons in acquiring players, their draft pick in Michelle Cooper, getting Dabinia, one of the biggest free agents available on the market. So there's a lot of positives there, like in terms of what we could see as outsiders on what was happening on the pitch. And that's purely about like the performance base of this team and kind of how they were able to play. Now, you mentioned as well that Caroline Schwablum is going to be stepping in as the interim head coach. This is a coach that was welcomed onto the Kansas City team just January of this year. So this the at the very start of this regular season, brought on as an assistant coach. She's the former Swedish national team coach. She's been a technical staff member of a number of different organizations, a former player. So now she's stepping into this. I think the timing of all of this announcement is also pretty interesting because the Challenge Cup kicks off tonight and Kansas City is on the road. They are in Houston getting set to play their opening Challenge Cup game tonight, Kansas City against Houston. And now Squablum has to step into that head coaching role at this immediate moment ahead of this game. And also the players have to go out and play a game tonight after this news has just broken and became public. Whether they're just learning about it too. We've heard that over the last couple of years and all of the different changes that have been happening in the NWSL with departures and firings of coaches and parting ways, that sometimes the players don't even find out until the news gets public. So imagine being a player and you're a couple hours before kickoff of a game time, you're getting ready, you're mentally preparing, you're having your pregame meal, and you see this news or you hear about this, or now this news goes public. You still have to put your head down and play a game tonight. That's
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah, I have to. My hope is that there are different protocols in place for when a club has to go through an announcement like this, and that the players were informed of that, especially as they're already on the road. They're in Houston. They're going to play a game in
Yeah.
hours, literal hours at the time of our recording a reaction to this news. So I would anticipate and hope that they were informed. Obviously, Quabblam has been informed. That was included in the next, the next step of this release. What is it going to mean for the team moving forward? Well, Quabblam will be the interim for this team throughout the duration, perhaps even of the season. That's something else I thought was um, something important to note within the release. There's a next step. They say, hey, Caroline Quablum is going to be the interim head coach. And the assumption within there is that there's going to be a search for a head coach, but it's not stated necessarily within the release. And I think that'll be kind of maybe like the next immediate step for the club. They have something in place for now. Perhaps Kansas City, turns things around, and maybe Quablum creates a bit of a resume for herself
Yeah.
with this team moving forward. But I think if you are on the administrative level for this franchise with one eye ahead, I mean, 2024 is another double expansion year. There's going to be competition for coaches, although it has been reported out there that the Royals are going to name a head coach very soon. But there's likely going to be a lot of competition for the Bay Area position as well. And who knows how the coaching landscape will look at the end of the 2023 season. There's always new positions to be filled, it sort of feels like, when covering head coaches in the league. But it makes me even more curious now how the game might go tonight. Lisa, we just did a preview of this team in their Challenge Cup game, and I think you and I both went Houston Dash in that one. Just to remind folks, if you didn't watch our live this morning, we did a Challenge Cup preview. Go check it out. I'll bring a little bit of that on here. We both went with Houston, and we did cite some of the injuries or the absences that players who won't be available for Kansas City, and some of those things kind of we leaned into in terms of how we were making our pick. And I don't know, maybe do you want to change a pick here? Do we want to maybe say that something like this maybe give a different perspective for a team, moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think it will change things, but honestly, no. I don't think it'll help Kansas City that they've gone through this, and we both picked Houston to win. I think the same kind of goes for me. It's a lot for players to have to deal with that off the pitch and then go on and play a game and win. And who knows? I mean, it may help them, right? It may lift them up knowing that Potter's not there anymore, but I think it'll be a lot more difficult for them to deal with this and handle it.
Yeah, very curious to see the tactics of Caroline Quablum and what she's going to bring out. And I want to give you a special shout out, Lisa, because I always intro you into these episodes as broadcaster, and that information is very important because when you and I saw this news, we also needed the immediate resource on how to pronounce the name of Caroline Quablum. And thankfully for the broadcasts, a lot of times they are given the pronunciation of the names by the player or by the coach or by the assistant coach. And it was very cool to hear Caroline Quablum pronounce her name the way she wants to have her name pronounced. And that's us utilizing it here on the show.
Mean, you're giving me a shout out. I'm shouting out Jen Cooper because she's the one that does all the work behind the scenes for the NWSL, making sure every player, every coach says their own name, how they want it to be said. And sometimes the players will say it in their native language or accent, and other times then they will repeat it Americanized. And this is how Caroline says her name, so this is how we're saying it. But yeah,
we're gonna get introduced to the Quablum era for sure, very quickly in a matter of hours. So I know I'll be watching. I'm sure others will be watching as well. There is some more news though that we want to share with everyone, a little bit different from the type of news that we've just been talking about. Hopefully, some of this will be exciting for you, and you'll stick around with us after a quick break.
Phenomenal! Absolutely magisterial here! Artiglieria do Campeonato Brasileiro. Colpisce ancora! Golazo!
All right, we're back. Let's chat a little bit about some other news that dropped today regarding our very new 24/7 soccer channel, CBS Sports Golazo Network. We dropped the announcement today that you can watch the remaining UEFA Women's Champions League knockout rounds on Golazo Network. There will be 5 matches. We're talking the semifinal games that will be kicking off really this weekend, and
Mhm.
the championship final as well. Exciting times for us here at CBS. We love to talk about women's soccer in every way, shape, and form.
Yeah, it's massive that CBS is getting these rights, and it's going to be on Golazo Network. We CBS and us here, we announced the launch of Golazo Network a little bit ago. It came out just last week, right? We're about a week and a half into Golazo Network. If you haven't checked it out yet, it is completely free. Go to your Paramount Plus app, go to live at the bottom, and then click on Golazo Network to watch. There's morning footy show, there's a box to box show, and there's live game coverage. We had our first live NWSL game last weekend on Golazo Network. So now with this announcement coming that the UEFA Women's Champions League semifinals, both legs, and the final will be on Golazo Network is massive. There will also be live match coverage and studio programming for the Champions League semifinals and finals, but all 5 games will be on Golazo Network. You can get it anywhere, right? CBSSports.com, CBS Sports app, Pluto TV, Paramount Plus, lots of places. It's very exciting for us, for Golazo Network. I know the people over at Golazo Network are thrilled about this. Jenny Chu, Susanna Collins, they're all hyped about it. Charlie Davies, they're jazzed.
We're gonna get some access to some soccer pretty early. So it's gonna kick off this weekend. The first legs of the semifinals. It's gonna be Chelsea facing off against Barcelona. It's gonna be Wolfsburg against Arsenal on Sunday to close out that first leg of the semifinals, and then they're gonna wrap back up with the second leg. It's gonna be Barcelona the hosts for against Chelsea, and then Arsenal the host against Wolfsburg on May 1st. So Barcelona Chelsea second leg will be Thursday, April 27th, and Arsenal and Wolfsburg on Monday, May 1st. And there's going to be all sorts of cool stuff in between the 2 semifinals. I really like that in this announcement. They've structured a lot of different types of content coverage around the matches. So there's going to be pre-game shows, there's going to be post-game shows, there's going to be a halftime segment, and there's all sorts of information out there for you to check out when and where you want to hop on in and check out any of the coverage and analysis that Golazo Network is going to provide. I believe Morning Footy is going to have some analysis, Box to Box is going to have some analysis, and of course we're going to have some reaction to the knockout rounds as well, because you love to see it. But yeah, no, I look, it's kind of with the news that dropped today, we definitely checked in with each other and we were like, okay, we got some stuff that we got to talk about, because this is like, it was like this 1-2 combination. It's just like, hey, like we're going to have UWCL semifinals and the final on Golazo Network. And then there's like news about dismissal of a head coach. And it's like, you know what? This actually shouldn't wait. We should definitely link up, hop back on, check in with everybody, talk about what just happened. And it's wild to think about these things kind of going back to back. At the same time, of course, I was watching the FA Women's Super League match between Man United and Arsenal, and it's like, of course, everything everywhere happening all at once. But good win for Man United. We could touch on Women's Super League to close this episode out. They got a narrow victory over Arsenal 1-0. The lone goal, game-winning goal by Alicia Russo in this one in late stoppage time of the first half. Loved the build-up by that. And even she was right in the box at the right time. Even though she was off balance, still was able to go ahead and nail that goal and get all 3 points for Man United, and that means they're currently at the top of the standings.
Sure are. Yeah, Manchester United sitting at the top, 44 points for them. Massive. I mean, their goal differential is 38. It's nuts. And poor Arsenal, honestly, like they lost Kim Little. They
Oh
get
my
to
goodness.
sign her, like massive news there with re-signing Kim Little, the midfielder, to Arsenal. I know Gunners fans are just going nuts about that one, but that news of her signing came just a day after it was announced that she's dealing with a bit of a hamstring injury and she'll be out for the rest of the Super League season. So Arsenal dealing with a bit of player injury bug there. So a tough loss for them to go down 1-0 against United at this point. But yeah, there's a lot of positives and a lot of good football coming up, frankly.
Yeah.
Like with Super League again this weekend, we got more Super League coming at you on Sunday. And then as you talked about the UEFA Champions League, I'm really excited for Chelsea Barcelona, like massive. Barcelona advancing to the semifinals on 6-1 aggregate over Roma, like massive. That's insane. 6-1 aggregate. Like, oh, love that.
Yeah, we'll see. These aren't any lightweight matchups for the semifinals by any means. We'll see.
And Chelsea going into penalty kicks, right, with Lyon. That's how they advanced. This was like
a while ago. They didn't make it. They didn't make it.
March. These games were like a month ago, so I'm like, wait, what?
They didn't get there without some late game drama for sure. But it kept hope alive for an all women's Super League, Champions League type of final. We'll see where Arsenal lands and where Chelsea lands out of the Champions League semifinals. Want to send best wishes to Leah Williamson, who also exited this game for the Gunners very early as well. It looked like an issue with the knee. And of course, heavyweight with the Lionesses. You hate to see something like that so close to a World Cup. Hopefully, everything's going to get checked out, cleared up there. It looked like she was able to eventually kind of limp off on her own. And hopefully we'll get another update on that and able to talk about that as we build up to UEFA Women's Champions League on Golazo Network. But that is all we have for you today on this breaking news segment. Thank you for everyone if you've joined us for our multiple episodes where we went live on today on Wednesday. Appreciate you as always. Thank you for listening to Attacking Third. Download, follow, listen to us anywhere you get your podcast. You can watch us too. Subscribe to us on YouTube so that you get alerts for whenever we go live at youtube.com/Attacking Third. And Lisa and I will be back with Challenge Cup coverage this week. So make sure you stay tuned. For Sandra Herrera and Lisa Roman, this was Attacking Third.